Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is the Corner Bookstore. Our topic today is mental health and coping skills. We are super excited to welcome our guest, Randi-Lee. She's backstage. We'll be bringing her back in just a moment. But our star of our show is Diane Floyd Bay. You can see some of her work here next to me, here on the bookshelf. There's not enough bookshelves to keep all the work that she's actually put out there and putting out there. So we're going to have to get another slide. Diane Floyd Bay is a dear friend. She is truly the connector. She has brought so many people to this platform, people from all over the world that are now having their own shows and sharing our mission, which is education, inspiration, hope, and a little bit of entertainment. Let's welcome Diane Floyd Bay to the show. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Dr. JACALYN. Thank you for the warm introduction.
Absolutely. It's nice to see you again. We just had a show a few minutes ago, Once Upon a Time, the children's show, which was about advocating for children. And I really see a tie-in with advocating for children and mental health wellness as well. How about you?
Absolutely. And what a fun show. I hope people will tune into that one as well. I'm excited about our author today that we're about to interview. And absolutely, mental health, listening skills, it all ties in together.
For sure. And, you know, the one thing I really like about Randi-Lee is that Randi-Lee is an expert when it comes to podcasting and has her own podcast called Write or Die. How cool is that? It's Write, W-R-I-T-E.
Right.
Right.
Hear more about it as well. Being an author, I had a feeling, and she being an author, it was W-R-I-T-E. You wouldn't want R-I-G-H-T.
No, for sure. We're going to bring Randi-Lee right out. Diane, just a quick introduction about yourself for people maybe joining us for the first time. Tell us about your passion when it comes to writing and to putting out content there for children and for young adults.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yes, I write children's books as well as, and you can see back there, Rise, A Girl Struggle for More. That's my first YA book, and a new one will be coming out hopefully by 2024. So more on that soon. And my passion is for children to embrace imagination and to love themselves and to be kind to others, and we just need more and more of that. And if children love themselves and like themselves for who they are, they can't help but be kind to others. So, and my other thing is all about wishing and hoping for ways to help bring a little peace on earth, and that's why the Song of Peace is very important to me. And Dr. JACALYN's won several awards too. So.
Woo! I love it. Congratulations, Diane.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring out Randi-Lee Bowslaugh. I'm excited to have you here. And Randi is in purple and black. I love purple. Come on out. Hello.
Hi. Purple's my favorite color too.
Absolutely love it. Where are you joining us from today, Randi-Lee?
I am by Niagara Falls, Canada.
Okay, beautiful place. So we also want to say hello to Mickey Mickelson, who sent you here to us. We just love Mickey, and we really appreciate the clients, especially you. We're getting to know you and to support your work. Randi-Lee, when and how did you become passionate about mental health and mental health awareness?
So it was probably oh my goodness, maybe around 10 years ago that it really kind of kicked up. So I've always been kind of interested in it. I went to college university for psychology and for corrections. And so I've always kind of been interested in it. But it wasn't until about, like I said, about 10 years ago when my kid, it was the middle of the night. He was crying, crying, and saying, "Why doesn't anybody like me? Why don't I have friends? Why am I so different?" And I was like, oh, this isn't good. I think I need to talk some more. So that's when it really became super important to me to share my story because I've been dealing with depression since I was like 14. So it became really important for me to share my story so that he knew that it was okay to feel that way, but also that you needed to talk about it and reach out and get help.
That's so powerful, and thank you for being so honest and sharing your own story as well as your child's. It's so when he shared that to you, what came up? Was it a feeling of fear or a feeling of knowing that you've been there and you can help alleviate any stress or fear?
Yeah, it was a lot of sadness. I was really sad that as a parent, I didn't realize how bad it was. Like I had an inkling at times because he was bullied in kindergarten up till about grade 3. So I thought that we had kind of worked through it or were in the process of working through it. So I didn't realize it was still so bad. So I was really sad and then kind of PO'd, kind of angry that, it was still happening, and then kind of, yeah, rejuvenated, I guess, to talk more about it.
Yeah, I love that because I feel that communication is so empowering, and yet when we have something or we feel something, we just want to keep it to ourselves because we feel that there's something wrong with us, that nobody else has this issue, and yet we all have issues. We're all struggling with certain things. So I just want to say hello to our new friend from Kenya. Let's say what he says. Stephen, hello. We need to pray for this issue. It's really killing a lot of children. And also, healthcare is very important, and someone we don't know who it is. Great topic. Thank you for being here, all of you.
All of you. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Diane, as you know, we're talking about mental health, and I feel like Diane and Randi-Lee, I'm sorry. I feel like when we put it in writing, it makes it that it's more powerful because we can pick it up and look at it again and again and again, and we can share it with other people. It's a great way to communicate and get our messaging out. What do you think, Randi-Lee?
Oh, 100% I agree. And actually, in a couple of my books, to make it even more powerful and usable, I put worksheets at the end of them that kind of correspond with the chapters. That way, if I'm saying, hey, a good tip is to write a letter to your younger self. That's actually chapter 1 of my one book. At the back, there's a place where you can actually do that. So instead of, because I've read a lot of books where you read and go, oh, yeah, that's a great idea, then you put it away. So I didn't want that to be the case. So you read it and you can go to the appendix and do it right then.
That's fabulous that you did
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. I really appreciate. We also have Dr. Z in the house with us. Nice to have you back with us, Doctor. Fantastic. So I love the name of your podcast, Write or Die. How did you come up with this? And what are some of the topics that you discuss on your own platform?
So I cannot take credit for the name. That was actually my best friend came up with it, Renata, who co-authored my second book, A Mother's Truth. So I had the idea. I knew I wanted to do a podcast. I knew I wanted it to be about mental health. And as I was talking to different people, they suggested, hey, you're an author, talk to other authors. I'm like, yeah, it's a great idea. So I was throwing around names with my husband. He came up with a couple good ones, but nothing that really stuck. And then my friend was like, what about Write or Die? And I'm like, oh, that's so catchy. And like the play on words with it. So, and it meant a lot to me because as I was saying, I was dealing with depression at 14. I didn't even really have a name for it back then, but now I know. And writing literally saved my life. So Write or Die kind of not only is fun sounding, but it kind of hit the nail on the head with it.
That's so interesting. Would you be open to elaborating how it saved your life?
Oh yeah, of course. Um, so as a teenager, I had a lot of suicidal thoughts, making plans, writing goodbye letters, all of that fun stuff. And instead of doing any of it, I wrote poems about it. And all of those poems actually I kept for years and years. I don't know why I kept them, but I kept them. And then in 2017, I found them all in the basement. I went, "Oh, these are pretty good." And I turned them into my first book, Thoughts of a Wanderer. So I'm literally an open book when you have questions because I put my whole life story into various books. But yeah, I wrote about doing the things that I was thinking about. And by doing that, I didn't physically do those things.
It sounds like you kind of got it out of your system by putting it out there. And then
Yeah.
by publishing it, it gives a tool for other people to refer to. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that became my first book. It's on my list to kind of revamp and redo with all the new things that I've learned over the years, but who knows when that'll happen.
I think it would be helpful for our audience. We do talk a lot here on this platform about mental health, and we've had a number of people who have attempted suicide, and they've spoken to a counselor, a therapist, or they've changed their life because they realize that they had a choice. And I think that that is really important, that people need to know that there are other options, that you just need to reach out and communicate with someone. Is that your experience?
Yes, yeah, and you have to reach out and find the right person because not every therapist is gonna match your needs, and that's totally fine, right? Because everybody is so different. So, at on my show, I've talked to a lot of different people, and sometimes that first therapist they talk to doesn't work out well for them. So don't give up. Don't be like, "Oh, all therapists are horrible." No, it just wasn't the right fit for you. And search out somebody else and try again because there's lots of different types of therapy. I myself, I've done cognitive behavior, I've done dialectical behavior. Right now, I'm doing I can't remember what it's called, but it's a trauma-based one. So there's lots of different styles out there, and you just have to find the one that works for you.
Do you think it's possible for those feelings to dissipate or go away completely, or do certain things happen and then they pop up and you need to have these coping skills to deal with them?
So I kind of believe a little bit of both. So I think again, everybody is so very different and um where their thoughts are coming from, where they're stemming from is a wide variety. So I think for some people, if they work through, say if it's a trauma response and they've worked through it really well, maybe that doesn't trigger them anymore and then they won't have those thoughts. But if there is some kind of trigger there that we haven't worked through yet, then still potentially they can pop up.
Yeah, great point. Thank you. I've never felt depression, but I know that I have things in my life that I really haven't dealt with completely. And you push those feelings down. And then to your point, the trigger, and then boom, they're there. So when we think about coping skills, what comes to mind?
Well, writing, first off,
Mm.
that's a really big one. Exercise is another really good one because it naturally will release your happy hormones. And when I say exercising, find whatever exercise is right for you because not everybody likes to run, not everybody likes to lift weights. I don't know, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's just walking. There's a lot of different styles. Um, Other coping strategies, we hear a lot about self-care. That's a hot topic. Um, so taking care of yourself first and foremost, whether that's taking 10 minutes every day to sit quietly looking outside, if it's going for a walk with your pets, if it's going to a therapist, all of those things are going to help you to take care of you, which in turn will then make you a stronger, more resilient person to help other people too.
That is so true. And I I really appreciate your openness. It's important. I think it's also important, and I like your thoughts um, for young kids because I noticed so many of them because they become isolated. And Dr. Jacalyn, you brought it up in the last show about COVID took away a lot of socialization, and young kids have to learn how to socialize. And then all of a sudden they're in third grade and they hadn't even been around kids, right? And so my point is that for them to find something that makes them happy, joining a choir and singing, or, sports, something where they know that they're succeeding. Don't you think that helps find that happy place for them? Or if you're, I don't know how to say it, but
I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do know what you're saying. So, again, there's so many different people out there. So I'm going to use two different examples. So for my son, he's 16. And during COVID, obviously, we're all locked away, like you were saying, isolated. But for him, most of his friends are all online, which I've met them all. I've seen them all like this on the computer. So I'm feel fairly safe with him being on there. And so he was able to still socialize the way that he was before, and still playing games, because there's so many different online games and VR stuff and that kind of thing. So for his age group, it didn't impact him as greatly. Now, for my grandson, he's only 3. So during COVID, it was those really important years of learning what the world is. So I've heard the term COVID babies a few times, because they're kids that have no idea what the world actually is, because they were born either just before COVID or during it. So they have no idea what the world is like. And so we're experiencing that a lot right now, because we just put him in swim lessons. So each week, grandpa, we take him to swim lessons, and he cries because he doesn't know how to interact with the other kids there. He wants to go. He's always like, yay, it's swim lessons. He loves water, loves swimming. That's not the issue. But as soon as his teacher comes over to take him from us to go to the class, then the waterworks start. So that's something that we've been experiencing. I'm sure other people have. And so finding something like you were saying, finding something that they're going to like and enjoy, is going to help with that, getting back into the socialization and then not feeling so isolated.
I'm just envisioning that whole thing, getting there and being all upset. And but with swimming, I guess that takes a lot of the anxiety and those feelings away, because you're forced to think about what you're doing.
Yeah, if he would stop crying for long enough. Poor guy. Breaks my heart, but he needs to learn to swim, and he does like water, and he needs to make friends. So he will.
We do have a question from our audience. I don't know if this is Dr. Z or not. Could you talk about setting boundaries, please? So I'm not sure if you want to talk about that. Randi-Lee?
I can totally talk about that. That's actually a really big topic in my book that's coming out in May. So the book that's coming out in May is about my brother's death by a drug overdose. So drug addiction is a big mental health issue, especially it starts at teenage years. So my brother, he was in his 30s, but he had been dealing with it since he was a teenager. And one of the biggest topics I put in that book is boundaries. So setting boundaries with other people and making sure that you're comfortable with those boundaries. So the examples that I give in relation to somebody who has addiction is that my boundary was, no, you're not coming to my house, but I will go meet you somewhere. No, I'm not going to give you money, but I will bring you a meal. So having those boundaries where it's like, okay, I still love you. I want to show you that I love you, but I'm not going to help you continue with your addiction. On the flip side of that, boundaries with, say, my kid who there's depression, we have a boundary of, well, he's worked through it a lot now, which is good. But when he first tried to hurt himself, we had to lock away knives, lock away anything that he could use to hurt himself. And the boundary at that time was, if you want to cook yourself something, somebody has to be in the room with you. So it wasn't, he wasn't able to do that stuff. Now he is, because like I said, he's worked through it a lot, but it's setting the boundary, the expectation, and keeping firm with it, because that is something that I noticed with my mom and my brother over the years, was that my brother would push and push and push. My mom would give in. And that's not going to help him any. And so whenever he would ask me for something, it was, no, this is what I said, and I'm not going to talk to you if you're going to call me names. So I hope that kind of answers your question. I mean, it's a huge, huge topic, boundaries, but those are a couple examples that I could share.
Randi-Lee, once again, thank you so much for that transparency and that honesty, because I know you have to go back and relive it again. How did you get this strength to do that, to be firm like that?
That's a great question. I honestly don't know. I just remember as a kid seeing my brother, bug my mom, "Mom, please, mom, please, mom, please, mom, please," like literally just on repeat for hours and hours. And I'm like, I just refuse to be like that. So I think it was seeing it and then seeing the outcome and then going, nope, that's not going to be for me.
And then when you would be away from the situation, how did you feel? Did you feel empowered because you knew you did what you needed to do?
Both empowered and sad, because it's still, as much as the boundaries in place and as much as I know that it is a necessary thing to have, it doesn't make it any easier to say no to somebody that you care about. And especially when my brother died, it was, well, could I have done something different? What were my boundaries out of place? Was I wrong for having them? Absolutely not. I was totally right for having them. I needed them to keep myself safe, my kids safe, and to make sure that he was not using me, because that is a big part of the somebody with an addiction, is they will use others to get what they need. And so as much as I went through this kind of guilt trip on myself, I had to come back and realize, nope, that was very necessary. It's okay. And then feeling empowered, like you said, comes back. But it's a really big mix.
Thanks again for answering that. We also have a comment. Very good. Thank you so much. It's Dr. Z. Traveling, not sure why my profile isn't appearing. That's all right. We know it's you and you're with us. So thank you for being here. So what would you say, Randi-Lee, are some of the topics that have been brought up on your podcast? Something that you think was really interesting that our audience would like to hear about?
So I've had so I have over 100 episodes now. So there's a wide variety of topics. Yeah, it's so exciting. And if you subscribe on YouTube, it's all divided into playlists. So like if you want depression, it's all the videos related are into playlists. So anything from depression, anxiety, I've had bipolar, a couple of people that talked about eating disorders. I find those to be some of the most interesting ones. There was some schizophrenia. Now, autism and ADHD, they're not technically mental health, but I have them come on my show and we talk about them too, because they have a special place in my heart. So I have a few topics about that. And the most interesting thing I find about my show is that everyone who comes on, they talk about it from a personal perspective, kind of like what we're doing right now. And they share what works for them. So I have, like I said, over 100 episodes, which means there's over 100 ideas there. I mean, obviously some people have the same one. Journaling is a huge one that they come up with. I mean, we're all writers, so but there's sometimes some different ideas that even I had not heard of before that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna try that too. That sounds cool, like different breathing exercises and stuff. So huge variety is what I think is the best part.
And we're not closing out the show, but how do people go to your YouTube channel and subscribe?
So if you go to YouTube and you just search in there Write or Die Show, then I'll be the first to pop up. If you don't put show at the end of it, there's a couple other people that use that title. So make sure that you just put in Write or Die Show.
All right, everybody, please do go subscribe. So Randi-Lee, a question I have about self-care. I know the other day, I think it was Tuesday, I started off the day with a show on dementia. Then the next show was suicide. And then the next show was grief. And I kind of felt myself starting to disappear. And so when you're talking with people about these subjects and you're living it yourself and at home, how do you take a step back or take some time and go, "Ooh, I'm not going to take this in anymore. I'm going to just, take care of myself"?
Yeah. So I love music. So sometimes for me, it's just putting on some good jams, and hanging out with my animals. I got a couple cats, a couple dogs, so that's a really big one for me. I used to really enjoy bubble baths. Now my kid just walks in and's like, "Hey, I need to go to the bathroom." I'm like, "Hey, use upstairs." Um, so I enjoy bubble baths for myself as a take a step back. Because in a moment like you were talking about where it's happening right then, it's not that I couldn't pick up the phone and call my therapist, but there's a great chance that she's already with somebody. So having something that helps you in the moment. So like as for me, music and petting my animals is probably my biggest go-to. And then writing, obviously.
Good tips. Thanks a lot for sharing them. Diane, what are your thoughts about coping skills? Anything that you can share that you do when you're in a situation where you're filled with anxiety or fear or something that's just overwhelming?
Um, well, two things that was going across my mind, Randy Lee, when you were speaking, was thinking of one of my brothers. He's now in heaven as well, and those that for all the listeners to know that it's okay to question, could you have done something better, or should you have done what you did? And I just loved how you shared that. You said, no, I did right. And I think that's important, because otherwise you just keep beating yourself up when you don't need to, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really appreciated that you sharing that. And my coping skills are the same as yours, because I love music. So I'm either singing or walking or doing something. And being a mom, even though our kids are all out of the house, you still worry about them. And you're like, oh my gosh, is it my fault they're doing that? What did I do as a younger mom? And my
Yeah.
husband's always saying, quit looking backwards. But,
Yeah. Actually, right now with my therapist, we're working on, well, she calls them stuck points, but kind of the gist of it um, is there any facts to what it is that you're thinking right now? So with my depression, this is a new skill I'm currently working on, so can't say I'm super good at it yet. But when I'm taking depression, say, as the example here, if I'm in a really bad mood, like a low mood, I can say to myself things like, well, is this true as a fact? So you take feelings out of the equation. You can't say, well, of course it's true because I feel this way. Nope, feelings are out of the equation. Is this true? So um I was just working on a little bit of my therapy homework this morning, and one of them is that I was worthless. And so is this true? Well, what is the reasons that it's true? Well, I feel this way. Oh, that's not a fact, that's a feeling. So then how is this not true? And I could come up with a lot more answers, like I have a loving husband, my kids love me, my friends love me, my coworkers enjoy my company. And then I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not worthless because all of these things go against what I was just thinking. And it makes me feel a little better. It's like a weight is lifted off of you.
I really love that. That's a great tool for all of us to use.
all of us.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're
The
welcome.
other day, I think it was Monday, I was doing a show with some broadcasters from around the world, and the show is called Talking Peace. And we were going to talk to two people in Lebanon who are doing a sit in for human rights. And long story short, I had major imposter syndrome, major. I thought, I'm not good enough to do this. I can't. I was sweating. I contacted the other people. I'm like, I can't do it. I'll just produce it. And it's those feelings. And we literally talk ourselves off a ledge about something that doesn't even make any sense. It's like, this is what you do, Jacalyn. This is what you do every single day. Why can't you do it? But yet, I don't know what it is. And maybe Randi-Lee, you could speak to this, that all of a sudden it's like a deluge of all these negative feelings.
Yeah.
What happens?
That's a great question. I don't have a total answer, but I can give you some guess. I'll give you a little bit of guesses. It has to do, I think, with how society teaches us to compare ourselves with others is a big one. So because I get this sometimes if the person that I'm about to interview has like won book awards, because I've never won a book award. But I've also, here's the fact of it, I've also never tried. I like to write, I like to share, I like to try and help other people. I'm not so much worried about sending into book competitions. So fact is, how could I if I have never tried? But the feeling behind it is that feeling of imposter syndrome of, oh my goodness, how am I going to, be on their level? I'm so not on their level. So I think a lot of it has to do with that comparison mindset that we're taught from a very young age. And then another part of it is just worrying that we're going to mess up. A lot of us, we want to be perfect. That's impossible. I have to remind myself of that quite often. But we don't want to be seen as somebody who messes up. So like before the show, you're like, oh, we're going live. So whatever you say, that's on there forever. And it's almost like, oh no, I'm used to it now. I've done a lot of live shows, so it's okay. But it used to be, okay, don't mess up. Don't say something stupid. But we mess up. We're people, we're humans. And if you don't try and you don't fail, then you can't get better at something. And you don't know what you don't know until you try it. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
I am just applauding you back here. What a great comment that you never tried, never applied for any awards. So how could you? But yet, before you're about to have this conversation, you're thinking, not good enough. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this interview. Maybe the person's not going to be, they're going to be like, why am I talking to her? And it's all ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Let's take it and go, whoa, right out the door.
Exactly. So yeah, that skill that my therapist is teaching me, I have already used it quite a lot because yeah, the fact of the matter is my feelings are not truth. I can feel what I feel and that's fine, but it doesn't mean that I need to sit in those feelings because those feelings are not fact. And then when I think about the facts, my feelings actually turn into more pleasant ones and happier space.
Well, I hope you don't mind if we steal that from you.
No, go ahead, share it. Just as you're sharing it, be like, hey, yeah, like, hey, this author, Randi-Lee Bowslaugh, yeah, she said this. And then go subscribe to her channel.
Absolutely. We have pulled up your website, so I'd love to share that now if that's right with you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look. Oh, I feel like lighter already since you shared that. Forget those feelings. Thank you. Okay, can you both see this? Because I'm over on the website.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very nice website. I like the colors. It's very calming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where would you like me to go?
Well, since we're on the topic of mental health, maybe if you go to the top, there's a little drop down for the books and nonfiction there. And so these are the different ones here. If you click on Embracing Me, so this is the one that released in 2021 that I was talking about that has the worksheets in it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is more about my story of dealing with depression, and each chapter kind of focuses on a different part of it. So at the beginning, I'm talking about like writing a letter to my younger self. There's examples there. How do expectations shape us? Like we were just talking about with imposter syndrome. Where does it come from? Well, it comes from expectations. And then I talk about how taking medication, if you need to, it's not a bad thing, but it can be seen as a bad thing. Therapy, self-care. So all sorts of different topics in there. And what I like about this one is it has the worksheets like we were talking about earlier. And then if you go back up to the same area, I'll just highlight my new book. So under nonfiction, Goodbye Too Soon. So this one is that new one I was talking about that talks about the death of my brother. So it's officially being released May 20th because that's the 2-year anniversary of his death. But it is on pre-order now, and I would love everyone to pre-order. But this is that book that I was just talking about. So it talks about the first chapter is actually how I found out, and I ended up having to tell my mom. And then I had to help her plan the funeral because my mom's not married or anything. So it was just my mom and I planning the funeral through COVID, of course. And then it delves into more what does the DSM-5 say about addiction? So the DSM-5 is the diagnostical criteria for mental health. And so it dives into that and kind of gives some examples and tries to show that people with addiction are people who have families. So I share a few memories and things. So it's really written for the family members of those people. So yeah, I wanted to highlight that one because we had already touched on it a little bit.
Randi-Lee, I have a question. When you were writing that, was it a painful experience or was it cathartic?
Both, definitely both. So I'm going to say the first 2 drafts, I cried a bunch. I had to stop a bunch of times. But then by the 3rd, 4th draft, I was like, hey, I know it's coming. I don't need to cry again. And then it was just more cathartic because it was getting it out. And in it, I talk about boundaries and I talk about the whole process, like I was sharing on the show of, did I do something wrong? Could I have done something different? Oh no. And I talk about how my thought process was and going through all of that, coping and trying to figure out what I could have done. But I was the baby sister. I was 4 years younger than him. So no, there's nothing I could have done different. But you think there is at the time.
Yeah, thanks again for sharing that. And by the way, on the other book cover, I saw you, I don't know if it was on the cover you were next to, but with your hair with lavender.
Yes, it just doesn't stay in very well.
It's so cool. I was going to ask you, is that a tough maintenance to keep it?
Yeah, it doesn't stay in long, but I do love it.
Yeah, it's really pretty. Okay, anywhere else that you want me to go over here?
Let's see. I think if you want to click on RB Media, this will actually take us to so Write or Die Show. That's the one where I'm interviewing other authors. And if you keep scrolling down, I do have a couple of other shows. So Reader's Intrigue, I'm having other authors, they come on, read the first chapter of their book. And what I'm reading, I do some book reviews. So you get to listen to my opinions some more.
Oh, I love that. We should send people from the Corner Bookstore over to you.
Yes.
You can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
then listen on Spotify. Is that to the person reading it or to your book review?
That'll go to, so that one is part of Reader's Intrigue, but there it is on Spotify as well for the book reviews.
Okay. And this is what you're reading.
Yeah. And our neurodiverse world, it's not released yet. It's a work in progress. But I want to create a show where I'm talking to other neurodiverse people. So autism, ADHD, OCD, learning disorders, basically any of the thinking differently kind of things.
That sounds fascinating and so important. What will it take for you to actually be ready for that?
Time. I have the whole concept. I have my pre-questionnaire all done. I need the time in order to do it.
So any way that we can help you? Anybody watching or listening?
Well, because I'm trying to focus and get Write or Die Show to bump up in subscribers. If I can bump up the subscribers, and I'll be able to introduce some new stuff too. So
all right, there's the call to action.
Subscribe. There you go.
Go and subscribe. Fabulous. Okay, Randi-Lee, anything else over here?
I don't think so. I think that kind of, because I want to keep it similar to what we're talking about. So
okay, fantastic. Yeah. So we'll
stop
sharing.
There's lots on there if other people want to go and check it out. I've got kids' books on there, some scary stories. I do speaking engagements, so you can go check it out.
What do you prefer to speak on? What are your favorite topics to be hired to speak on?
Favorite topics are mental health. Shocking. And being a parent of a kid with autism. Those are probably my 2 favorite topics. And then I was a kickboxer for about 10 years, so I do enjoy talking about that as well, and how being a female coach in a male-dominated sport is kind of fun. So a few different things.
And who do you have there with you?
This guy that's on my lap is Neo. The cats have learned to open my office door. So there's actually 3 of them in here. No,
oh my gosh.
All 4 of them are in here with me. So Neo is on my lap. He is my 3-legged kitty who I have drafted a first draft for his story. I have a Mr. Friggy over here. There's a black cat and a Smokey on the ground as well.
Can we see Neo? Well, hello, Neo. Hello. And who else is here?
And
When
that's
else came up.
Let me take down this banner and put you back up again so we can see.
now,
Neo.
Hello.
now he's curled into me. I can't put him down. This
Oh,
one's
he's
Mr.
pretty.
Fridge.
Hi, Mr. Fridge. Mr. Fridge. Mr.
Oh.
Fridge, hello. Oh,
So
hi, how are
Mr.
you?
Friggy is actually kind of related to what we're talking about because he was found in a hoarder's home, hiding in a fridge.
Oh
And
my
so the Humane
gosh.
Society took him, and that's how we ended up with him.
Oh, Mr. Fridge, you're a survivor.
He
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
Oh.
they're beautiful.
Neo's taking out my headphones. Silly kitty.
Hello, Mr. Fridge. Can you see us? Hello.
So beautiful.
They're so cute.
They are adorable.
You know, Randy, one of the things that I loved about everything you shared, but also wanted to see if you'd re-highlight the importance of talking about your feelings, because that's a real way to help maybe stop things escalating. What do
Yes.
you think about
For sure. So let's start with when you don't talk about your feelings, because you hit the nail on the head. They escalate, and they escalate in kind of a downward spiral. So when you don't talk about what you're feeling, all that's going to happen is your brain will go on repeat talking about how worthless you are, how horrible you are, how people don't like you. At least that's what my brain does. But once you start talking to other people or even talking it out with yourself, like we were, the example before of saying, okay, what's the facts here? And even just saying the facts out loud to yourself can also be helpful. But finding that person that will listen without giving advice. So whether or not that's a therapist or a spouse, a best friend, a sibling, somebody that you can talk to that isn't going to tell you, oh, your life's not that bad. What do you have to be concerned about? That's not what you need. You need somebody who's going to listen. And depending on how you are, I like when people go, wow, that does suck.
Yeah.
Right? They just agree with me. They don't give me advice.
Mhm.
They go, yep, that sucks. Is there something I can do for you? Right? Ask them. We don't need somebody else to tell us what we need. We need you to ask us what we need. Sometimes we don't know, but it's definitely not advice from others. So finding that person that makes you feel safe and safe enough to tell what you're actually feeling. And of course, I'm a big proponent of therapy. If you can afford it, if you can find the right person, the right fit, therapy is awesome.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you shared that. We talk a lot about that for the power of listening, how people just want to give solutions and nobody asks for a solution. We just want someone to listen without judging.
Exactly.
Right.
I just need somebody to listen to me, kind of vent, kind of rant, and occasionally go, wow, that sucks. That's what I like. I like hearing, wow, that sucks. Because then it's affirming that I'm right in feeling that way, but also that I don't have to continue feeling that way.
Yes.
That's
And
so true.
it's so powerful. And I would imagine that your cats make you feel something else
Yes.
than what you're feeling. Yes.
I love them. They are all very snuggly, very lovey. Smokey sometimes makes trouble, but the rest of them just want loves and pets.
Are they indoor cats?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they got outside, it wouldn't be good.
No, probably
No.
not. They don't really try to escape either, though.
That's good. Very good. Well, this has been a really enjoyable and informative show. So thank you so much, Randi-Lee. I really do appreciate it. I'm glad we got to meet. And I hope that you'll come back on some of our other shows for other audiences.
Definitely. This was awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation. I love how you guys have some people that interacted, asked us some questions. That's really fun.
Yeah, that is fun. And we have your banner here. I'm going to spotlight you again. But for people who can't read the banner or they're listening on a radio station or podcast platform, what's the best way to reach you and who would you like to contact you?
So email is the best way to reach me. So info@rbwriting.ca because I'm Canadian. But I am on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. We've talked about that. So for those things, it's all just other than YouTube, right? YouTube, we're going to search the Right or Die Show, but on Instagram, TikTok, you're just going to find me on Randi-Lee Bowslaugh. And I would love people to contact me if they're interested in having me come talk to a group of people, do any kind of author readings for like a book club or schools to talk to kids about mental health, and anybody that just is like, hey, I need to talk to somebody. I don't have nobody else.
Yeah. And those calls do come. There are people who really don't have a single person to speak to. So we thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Right or Die Show on YouTube. Go over there and subscribe. 100 episodes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks again. We are going to be signing off. Diane, how do people get in touch with you, and who would you like to contact you?
Sure. The best way is my website, DianneFloydBoehm.com, DIANNFLOYDBOEHM.com. And I'm happy to hear from anyone who's interested in the type of books that I put out about imagination, loving yourself, being kind to others. And if you're interested in having me come to your school and read or sign books or inspire the teachers, because you guys help create our leaders of tomorrow, then give me a shout out. Thanks, Dr. JACALYN.
Thank you, Diane. And our next show is coming up. It's the Film and Music Show, followed by The Wise Ones, followed by Talking Heads. So please do stay with us wherever you're watching or listening. We'll be right back momentarily. Randi-Lee, a real pleasure, and I wish you continued success, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. You definitely will. This was fun.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.
Thanks, Diane. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.